Do I have any apple pie lovers out there? Because if you're anything like me and you love apple pie, you're going to love this video. Because I have 10 fragrances that are different but similar, but they all have that apple pie vibe. I love those kind of fragrances. Let's talk about it. What's going on, YouTube? I'm the Bowtie Fragrance Guy. Like, if you're into looking good and smelling great, then this is a channel you may find some value in, because I don't only talk about fragrances, I also give you guys some style tips as well on how you can not only smell your best every day, but how you can look your best as well. So if that sounds like something you would be interested in, I hope you won't mind subscribing to this channel. And if you do decide to subscribe, make sure that you enable notifications by hitting the all button and that bell icon. That way, anytime I upload new content, you'll be one of the first people to get notified. All right, guys, so one of my favorite genre of fragrances, if you will, is gourmand fragrances. And more specifically, when you start to get into gourmand scents, fragrances that give that apple pie or have that apple pie vibe are fragrances that I've always seemed to really be drawn to. Now, oftentimes you'll notice that when you find fragrances that have this apple pie vibe, you're going to find that there are certain notes that are associated with these fragrances. Of course, one of the primary notes you're going to see most of the time listed is the note of cinnamon. All right, all good apple pies have that kind of cinnamon thing going for it. You're going to find an amber accord, or the notes that comprise an amber accord, which are vanilla, labdanum, and benzoin. And you're also going to find, of course, tonka bean to give it that additional sweetness. So you'll find these three main notes or accords in these fragrances that yield that or give that apple pie vibe. Now, not all of these fragrances smell exactly the same, but they smell very similar. They all have that same kind of feel to the fragrances. So if you're looking for fragrances that, or you like fragrances that smell like apple pie, like Angelsshare by Kilian, this would be a good video for you to watch, because it'll give you an opportunity to see some other fragrances that smell similar. So you don't have to be like me and have all 10 of these fragrances in your collection, but you know, if you like one or the other, and maybe one's out of your price range or whatever the case may be, then maybe this will be a good list to look at just for some different alternatives. So anyway, that's what we're talking about today. 10 fragrances that have that apple pie vibe. If you want to see what's on the list, you know the routine. Keep it locked right here. Let's get it.
The Bowtie Fragrance Guy.
All right, guys, we're back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked in. Let's jump right into the list. Now, I want to mention this one first because it's one of the most popular fragrances that I'm going to talk about today, and it's from the house of Kilian, and this, of course, is Angelsshare. Angelsshare. Yep, the one in the almost glass bottle that looks like, of course, your favorite cognac drink. Yeah, this one right here, Angelsshare. Now, it does have all of the notes that, you know, aforementioned notes that I talked about. It has the vanilla, which comes a part of an amber accord. So you have vanilla, you have cinnamon in this as well. But this one actually is going to give you an additional amount of sweetness from praline. So it has praline, and then it has that booziness that's coming in from the cognac as well. So again, like I said, definitely gives you that apple pie kind of feel to it. But just like the rest of the fragrances I'm going to talk about on the list today, they all have some slight differences as well. So I would say that you, of course, wouldn't have to have all of these, like I said before, but maybe one or two, I think, if you love these kind of scent profiles, would suffice. Again, you would have to really just kind of know what you like as far as maybe the slight differences that they have. But praline, I would say, so this one is a little bit sweeter because of the praline, and then the booziness for the cognac gives this fragrance a slight bit of uniqueness, although, of course, they all have a very similar smell to them. So the first fragrance here, guys, very popular fragrance in the community, from the house of by Kilian. And again, this one is called Angels Share. All right, the next fragrance that I want to talk about, this fragrance is actually probably most known for the apple pie kind of accord or vibe. And this fragrance comes from the house of Parfums de Marly. And of course, this is Wajan. Wajan from Parfums de Marly. This one has the tonka. So you got the sweetness there from the tonka bean. It does have all the notes that listed that would form an amber accord, the vanilla, the benzoin, the labdanum. And also has, of course, the sweetness, of course. I think I may have said this already, but the tonka bean in there as well. So you got that double dose. You got the vanilla and the tonka bean in this one. But where this one gives a little bit of a unique feel is this one actually has the addition of honey. Oh man, honey is one of those notes to me that I really, really enjoy. It gives fragrance this kind of almost exotic, almost sexy feel. And most of the fragrances where I've smelled honey, and that's kind of sort of what it does for this one, but definitely has that apple pie vibe. I think, like I said, this is one of the first fragrances that was really widely known or talked about that had that apple pie feel to it. And man, is this thing good. This is a little bit heavier to me than angelsshare, and probably of all the fragrances I'm going to talk about, it's probably the heavier, more darker fragrance. There's some musk. You're going to get some musk in here as well when it dries down. But anyway, good nonetheless. I love all of these fragrances, obviously. And this one comes from the house of Parfums de Marly. Again, guys, this one is called Wajan. All right, guys, the next fragrance up on the list, I do apologize because this fragrance actually came out before Wajan, and this is best known for having an apple pie feel. But this one comes from the house of Hermes, and this one is called Ombre Narguilé. This is called Ombre Narguilé from the house of Hermes. Again, all of the notes that form the typical apple pie accord, that's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it the apple pie accord. Cinnamon, tonka bean, and an amber accord. All three of those are present here, but this one adds a little bit more sweetness as well with the note of caramel. Now, there's also lists rum as a note. I don't get a whole lot of booziness from the rum, but this also adds honey as well. So this is really sweet. Although of most of the fragrances on the list, this is the one that wears the lightest on my skin, oddly enough. Now, it could be, again, that this fragrance might have been reformulated or something like that. I'm not sure because it has been out for quite some time, and I'm pretty sure it has been since the initial release of the fragrance. But nonetheless, it is really, really good. Again, of all the ones that I want to talk about today, this one wears the lightest on my skin, but it's a really, really good fragrance. So if you're looking for something else, again, a kind of an alternative to maybe Wajan or angelsshare that wears a little bit lighter on the skin, this one comes from the house of Hermes, and this is called Ombre Narguilé. All right, now this next fragrance, although it still comes across and gives you that apple pie feel, just based on the notes that are listed, they don't list all of the notes that I've been talking about that actually form that apple pie accord. And I'll explain it to you when we talk about it. But this one is from the house of Daniel Josier, and this is called Ombre Tabac. Ombre Tabac. Now, I really, really, really enjoyed this one. This one gives you that whole apple pie thing, but it's a little bit more smoky and incensey. So you have incense in this one as well as a note of tobacco. Now, there's other fragrances that I've already talked about here that actually list a tobacco note as well, or there will be some that will list tobacco. That's another note that you will see, tobacco as well as honey. And sometimes some of these fragrances also carry that boozy accord. That's kind of common amongst these fragrances, kind of a common theme, if you will. But this one, man, this is the grown-up apple pie fragrance of the bunch because of that kind of smoky incense and tobacco that you get in here. But again, it does have the main accord that gives that whole smell to fragrances, which is the amber. So you have the amber accord here, you have vanilla in a very prominent note of vanilla, and it is sweet, you know, so it does definitely give you that whole apple pie vibe. And maybe not all the notes are listed here, but definitely one that if you smell all these fragrances, you're gonna say, well, they kind of smell similar. But anyway, this one is from the house of Daniel Josier, and this was called Ombre Tabac. All right, this is value alert right here. So if you're looking for the best value on this list This is one of the best values on the list right here. This is from the house of Boucheron, and this is called Ombre Alexandri. Ombre Alexandri. This is another one that smells like apple pie. This thing smells phenomenal. Oh my God. Again, it's so crazy, man. They all smell similar, but then they all have their own little distinct difference, you know, and that my nose detects at least. Again, the average person may not pick it up. Obviously, wearing this, walking by somebody, it's not like they're going to be able to probably tell if you're wearing this versus maybe even like an angelsshare. But to my nose, they all, when I put them to my nose, have a very distinct little difference to them. Now, this one as well, primarily is composed of the amber accord. Again, the amber is present in all the fragrances. You know, outside of that, sometimes they start to vary as far as what else is included, at least in what's listed as the note breakdown. But they all have the amber. This has amber, and this one also has tobacco. You know, so it doesn't have the tonka bean or the cinnamon listed. You know, but again, it does smell very similar to all the other fragrances on the list. And again, this is probably going to be the best value on the list. This one you can usually find for around $100, whereas a lot of other ones are $150 and above. So anyway, definitely another fragrance that has the apple pie vibe going forward. This is from the house of Boucheron, and this is called Ombre Alexandri. All right, this next fragrance would probably be known as the one of the best values on the list as far as these fragrances are concerned, but unfortunately it's been discontinued, and I mean very unfortunately. It comes from the house of Paco Rabanne, and this is 1 Million Privé. 1 Million Privé. I love this fragrance. I've knocked out about half the bottle and I have a backup. And this is, again, in the designer realm, this is widely known as the apple pie fragrance. Now, this one has the tonka bean here as well, but this one actually uses myrrh. So it still gives that kind of balsamic feel that an amber accord kind of brings to fragrances as well. So you have that. The myrrh is sweet here. And it also has mandarin orange that gives us a little bit of a unique twist as well. Like I said, all of these have a little bit of a unique feature to the fragrance, but it definitely at the end of the day smells just like a fresh baked apple pie. So if you can still find it out there, man, this is one of my favorite designer fragrances. It's from the house of Paco Rabanne, and it smells like apple pie. This one's called 1 Million Privé. All right, this next fragrance is probably one of the least known fragrances on this list. It's from the house of Maison, which is a fragrance brand that was started by Alberto Marias. And this fragrance is called Celebs Wood. Celebs Wood. And this one, of course, smells like apple pie. You got tonka bean in here. You have the cinnamon in here. Now this one is has a little bit more of a spicy kick. And that's because it has white pepper and cardamom in here as well. So you'll immediately be able to, although it has that apple pie feel to it, you'll immediately be able to pick up on more of a spicy kick in this one, which gives this fragrance a somewhat of a unique factor. But at the end of the day, it does smell very similar to a lot of the other fragrances that I've already talked about on the list. Of course, it has that kind of apple pie feel to it as well. There's an ambery accord to it. There's the tonka bean, there's the cinnamon, but again, it has those very spicy notes of cardamom and white pepper. But it's really good. It's from the house of Maison, and this is called Celebs Wood. All right, this one kind of has the apple pie feel to it as well, although there are only 3 notes listed with this fragrance. This one is from the house of Givenchy Luxury, and it's called Beverly Hills Exclusive. Beverly Hills Exclusive. To me, this is the sweetest fragrance of all of the ones that I've listed. Again, I think there's tonka bean listed, honey, and tobacco. So only 3 notes, and you get a lot of that honey, and a lot of that tonka bean in this fragrance. That's really what it's about. You get a slight bit of tobacco on here as well. Definitely, again, fits into the category of fragrances that we're talking about, although it's really missing that kind of heavy ambery feel to it. So it's a little bit lighter, although it doesn't wear light. I mean, it really performs well, but it wears lighter. You don't have that resonance kind of balsamic feel that the other fragrances that I've listed have, but it does still smell very similar to those fragrances, although sweeter and lighter. But it's from the house of Givenchy Luxury. If you're looking for an alternative, of course, this one is called Beverly Hills Exclusive. All right, this next fragrance comes from the house of Bottega Victorious, and this one is called Amethyst. This is Amethyst. Man, I love this fragrance. I sincerely enjoy the heck out of this one. Very apple pie-like, but the difference here, this one has a note of a leather. The only fragrance on the list that has leather. So that's what makes this fragrance unique, all right? So you have, of course, the amber accord in here. You have the cinnamon, but then you have that leather. And that's what gives this one a little bit of a unique factor when you compare them to the other fragrances on the list. But again, you guys understand the theme of it. If you like fragrances that have that kind of feel of apple pie or smells kind of like apple pie, this is one that will do it. Amazing fragrance, a tremendous performance. I get tremendous performance out of this one on my skin, and I love it. It's from the house of Bottega Victorious, and again, this one is called Amethyst. All right, guys, and the last fragrance on the list, we're actually going back to the house by Kilian. This is one of my favorite fragrances in my entire collection, and this one is called Apple Brandy. Apple Brandy. Now, this actually is going to, of course, all these fragrances smell alike, but this is very similar to angelsshare. But angelsshare is way sweeter than this. This is the grown-up angelsshare right here. This, what gives this one, it has that apple pie kind of feel to it, but you get a lot of that aged oak. Like again, the booze or the brandy has been sitting in oak barrels for centuries. That's what this smells like, and that's because it has that nice note of cedar in here as well to go with the oak wood. So the cedar in here is it gives you definitely that pencil shavings kind of feel that people sometimes talk about when you smell cedar wood. So you get that with the oak, and then you get the sweetness in here as well. But this thing right here, oh man, again, the grown-up version of angelsshare. That's the best way for me to describe it. So it still kind of has that apple pie feel to it, but this is the most grown-up, the most grown and sexy of the crew. And I cannot tell you, words cannot express how good this fragrance is. But it's another one that's from the house of by Kilian, and again, this one is called Apple Brandy. But all right, guys, that's it, man. That's my time. I hope you enjoyed this video today, man. Definitely something different, something unique. But I wanted to bring this to you because I've always said that, you know, there's only so many notes, so many different accords that you can put together, and it's harmonious enough to produce a good smelling fragrance. So you're going to find fragrances that may have one. Sometimes it's just one note, but sometimes it's, you know, 5 or 6 notes that are the same. But if you smelled another fragrance that shares similar notes, you probably say to yourself, wow, this kind of smells like that. And that happens. This just so happens to be fragrances that form that apple pie accord, and I seem to love and be drawn to that particular style of fragrance. But I hope you enjoyed the video today. As always, I sincerely appreciate your time and attention to these videos. I know you guys don't have to watch what you do, and I sincerely appreciate that. Then don't forget to make sure you take a few moments to go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you are sharing these videos out to some other folks out there that you think could use this information or find it entertaining. Because I'm your guy, Darian. I'm the Bowtie Fragrance Guy. I love to look good, and of course, I love to smell amazing. So until next time, guys, keep looking good, keep smelling even better. I'll catch you on the flip side.